Active listening, again, is showing your partner that you care and you value what they have to say. So when you share your thoughts, ask your partner, please repeat to me what you heard me say. In other words, what I hear you saying is that you prefer to do devotions in the morning instead in the evening because you're too tired after you get off work. Exactly. Prime example. All right, Sheila.
Or other words, no, I'm not cooking tonight. Welcome. I'm Sheila M, an empowerment coach with Sheila M Coaching.
And I'm Regina Barbour, a family and marriage coach at Godworks Coaching.
Today, we're unpacking the art of communication because love isn't enough without it.
We're going to explore real life stories, practical tips that you can implement, and techniques that will help you reconnect with your partner.
Yes. And if today is your first time joining us, a special shout out to you. Make sure that you subscribe so you won't miss notifications for our episodes. You can also check out Sheila M Coaching so you won't miss anything about what we do. We're about uplifting and making sure that you become the best you possible.
Our first segment is on the power of words and the damage of silence.
Communication is the heartbeat of every relationship, but it's often where things fall apart. Let me read a passage of Mark and Rachel's story as they learn about active listening. Consider the story of Mark and Rachel, a couple married for 10 years who on the surface appeared to have it all together. They loved each other deeply, shared common values, and were committed to their family. Yet, over time, Rachel began to feel distant from Mark. The warmth and connection that once defined their relationship had been replaced by routine and silence. Mark was always busy with work, and when he came home, he would retreat to his phone or the TV, while Rachel would be busy herself with the children or household chores. Their love remained, but their communication had withered. In counseling, they both realized their lack of communication was eroding their relationship. They were living parallel lives, assuming the other person knew what they were thinking or feeling, but never taking time to actually express it. Rachel admitted that she had felt lonely, even though they were physically together every day. On the other hand, Mark felt overwhelmed by work and assumed that his silence was an unspoken agreement that they both were handling their responsibilities. Neither realized that their silence was creating a growing divide. This story highlights a common relationship error, the damage of assuming that love is enough without communication. Silence, in many cases, can be more damaging than words. It creates a void where resentment, misunderstanding, and loneliness can grow. Regina, what you think about that?
I wholeheartedly agree with you when you mentioned that the words are powerful, but silence can be even more powerful. So, exactly.
You know, as we go through day by day, I think in relationships, it's so easy to get into routines and everybody just kind of retreats to their corner dealing
Yes.
with their own things. But
Yes.
when there's a partnership going on, you
Right.
know, again, we keep talking about checking in with each other, connecting. You know, you're just assuming as you're handling your own stuff, the other person is right there with you, but they're
Yes.
not.
Right.
because they can't read your mind. So you're going to
Exactly.
have to check in and talk with them. And I think when somebody's going through something, a lot of times you try to hold that in just
Right.
because you're busy, to
Right.
stop and have to explain it. And, maybe you don't even want to burden them can be challenging to you. And
Right.
so with that partner taking that moment out, I mean, you're checking off so many things when you're reaching out, to just see how they're doing. I think that can even be a release for them. Communication, again, I think can bring you closer together on so many levels when
Hmm.
you're talking to your partner to find out what's going on with them and not just assuming all is well or that you know what's going on with them.
Definitely. Active listening is a much needed tool in order to have good communication. The whole goal of active listening, though, is to seek to understand your partner and not so much to respond. Now, I have to tell you, my early years of marriage, I was guilty. I was guilty of not listening. I was guilty of sitting there preparing my argument while my husband was speaking. But later on, I realized that that was not the way to go. I had to actually give him my undivided attention and let him know that even though I didn't agree, I was still willing to listen to what he had to say. So I love the part that what Sheila brings out in her book, that active listening isn't just about a skill, it's about respect, the act of respect. And when I read this in this book, I was like, whoa, this is deep. I had to sit there and ponder on that. When you take time to listen to your partner and not be in a hurry to respond, you are validating them, letting them know that what they have to say is important, they feel valued, and they feel cared for. So, this is the vital part about active listening, not seeking so much to get your point across, but seeking to take time to understand what your partner is really saying.
And that's brought out in this short passage I'm going to read to you about Brian and Melissa's story. Take the example of Brian and Melissa. You know what? Forgot my glasses again. Brian often felt like Melissa wasn't listening to him. Whenever they had a disagreement, he noticed that she would cut him off or jump to conclusions before he could fully express his thoughts. On the other hand, Melissa felt like Brian was being dismissive, avoiding the deeper issues she wanted to address. Their arguments escalated because neither was genuinely listening to the other. After attending a relationship workshop, they learned the practice of active listening. They began implementing a rule where during difficult conversations, one person would speak while the other listened without interrupting. Once the first person was done, the listener would summarize what they heard before responding. This simple practice transformed their relationship. Brian felt heard for the first time, and Melissa realized that she had been projecting her own assumptions instead of hearing Brian's valid concerns. Wow. What a difference it takes when you get out your own head and what's
Right.
going on with you and really listen to what the other person is saying. All
Definitely.
right, all right, all right. Are you ready for your tips? Hopefully you got your pen and paper out or your phone notes because this is some good stuff. Tip number 1, give me a drum roll. Woo! Practice active listening.
I love how Sheila started out saying practice, because active listening does not come normally easy for us. It's a skill that you have to learn, and it's a skill that you have to practice. And when you start practicing, just like any other skill, it's going to feel awkward. So mostly when I'm working with couples, I have them sit there and practice right in front of me, sharing what their concern is, having one person take their time, one person speak while the other person's listening. And then have the person come back and say, tell her what you heard or tell him what you heard. So, active listening again is showing your partner that you care and you value what they have to say. So, when you share your thoughts, ask your partner, please repeat to me what you heard me say. In other words, what I hear you saying is that you prefer to do devotions in the morning instead in the evening because you're too tired after you get off work. Exactly. Prime example. All right, Sheila.
Or other words, no, I'm not cooking tonight. Tip number 2, use I statements.
This simple shift moves you from the conversation of blaming to moving to understanding your partner. I statements are vital. The moment you bring out you did, you said, you're in trouble. The conversation is over. There is no resolve. The defense goes up, and that's it. I statements help you to avoid blaming your mate and allow you to engage what you really want to express, how you're feeling, and what you need from your mate. An example, I feel really frustrated when you're running late and you don't take the time to call or text. Instead of saying, you're always late and you never come home and you. I statements again is sharing how you feel and what you need from your mate.
Yeah, I statements are powerful because you can have huge arguments about saying you do this and you do that. But when you make it an I statement, you can't change how I feel.
Right.
You can change what I'm accusing you of doing or other things, but how I feel
right
kind of disarms things because it's just how I'm feeling.
Right.
Whether you didn't mean to do that or it's something that occurred you never thought of is altogether different than me accusing you of doing something you're going to adamantly deny doing. So right. I think that is a great thing, number one, in stopping some of the arguments that happen.
Yes, definitely.
And obviously leading to better communication. Yes. Tip number 3, be mindful of tone. Oh, I'd love to talk about this one.
Yes, tone is everything.
Yeah.
I'm always saying it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yes.
Your tone can escalate an argument or it can de-escalate the tension in the room. I love it because Proverbs 15:1 says a soft answer turns away wrath. And I've watched this in my own life. How me and my husband are uptight about something and I'll respond in a nice soft answer and the whole conversation will shift or vice versa. So tone is everything.
Now I gotta tell you, I thought you were going on my side. But you are too nice of a person to go on my side because I can be calm, cool, and collective and wreck you. So I've had to learn to work on my filter. My upbringings were challenging and my household was rough with sharp tongues. It wasn't a place where the weak survived. And, as I grew older, that became prevalent in my life. And I worked very, very hard. And it was a painful process. My tongue and my tone. And so I kind of cut you up. And so, that tone and the intention, you have to be really, really careful of. And, words can hurt. Not justifying either because they're both wrong. But, if somebody knock you in the head and then they leave, that heals. But there's something about words that are still challenging to me decades later,
That's right.
that I really had to have counseling and things about from my childhood.
Yeah.
So, the intention behind your words and that tone can really, really devastate somebody. So, just call yourself on that. I
Right.
tell myself sometimes, when I'm checking up on myself, Sheila, you can do better than that. So, sometimes we got to pull our own coats.
That's right. That's good. That's good, Sheila.
Tip number 4, create no phone zones. Can we
Now,
do that in today's time?
that's my pet peeve. Oh my goodness, we're all walking around with a computer in our hand and they're destroying our relationship. The
Mm,
next time you go to the restaurant for dinner or lunch, look around. What do you see at the
mhm,
table? You don't see a whole
mhm.
lot of meaningful
That's right.
conversation. Everybody,
Mhm,
the kids, the parents, everybody's sitting on their phones.
mhm.
We have to start doing better, putting down those phones and having meaningful conversations. When we take time to put those phones down, you'll be surprised how we can check on each other and how we can exchange what's going on in our lives.
I look at it as being a respect thing.
Yeah.
Um, do I warrant your time? Do I warrant the respect of you setting aside everything else to spend these moments with me? I know I'm worth it. Do you realize that? And unless it's some emergency, but 99% of the time, somebody I know in my life has ESPN announcements every 2 seconds. The good thing is he doesn't pay it any attention. We just
Mine
hear these
too.
alarm things going off all the time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but be in the moment, right? You don't
That's
want to
good.
live life halfway being there. You need to
That's
be
good.
present with what's going on
That's
to
good.
create a thriving life, because that's what we're really talking about here, not just going through the motions. Because you wouldn't want somebody, when you desire their attention, to be splitting you between 5 and 8 other things. Because if you're gonna win it, you got to be in it, right? All right,
That's
final
good.
drum roll. Woo. Tip number 5, schedule check-ins.
This is a common one, and we all know that we need to take time to check in. But I love how you put in the book, Sheila. It doesn't have to be formal, it just needs to happen. Oh my goodness. I said, wow, she pulled my coattail on that. For years, I tried to have these formal talks with my husband, and it just wouldn't work. And it dawned on me that we spend time together all the time. All I needed to do is say, hey, I need to talk to you about something, and we could have the conversation. But I was stuck in trying to have a formal talk time, and it wasn't working. So when I read this point, this tip in your book, that really caught my attention. So, yes, set aside scheduled times to talk, like I share with my clients. Have a weekly check in emotionally, check in physically, check in spiritually. Have that weekly check in to see what's going on in each other's life. But remember, it doesn't have to be formal, it just needs to happen.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that sometimes we get in our heads, we have to do it. We've seen how perfect it is on television, which again is television. So it's made
Yes,
up. But you just need to make it work. You got a
right,
goal. How do you get from A to C? Make it work.
right.
And, women, we know that men are built differently than we are.
Yes.
And we see it so differently. So just find ways to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
For myself, I was beginning of the year. I got away last year. There were 5 areas in my life that I used to kind of do a check in for me personally every week. to make sure that I'm reaching, touching, being reminded of certain areas in my life. And this year, I kind of went another way, and I added my romantic relationship in there. And so, yeah, I've been praying about it, and you know, all that I'm into right now, focusing on relationships and the coaching practice. I came up with 5 things every week that I want to check in on relationships and on my relationship. And I just happened to share them with the love of my life. And it was so funny. He was so very interested in that. And it's something that I'll share in the future. I'll see how things go. And but there were just some things I didn't even think about. When you've been single for so long, it really, shout out to my single women. I was single for very, 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 very long. And let me tell you, make your best life while you're single.
Yeah.
I'm standing proud for us because I had decided that I'm gonna make it my best life. If he comes along, he does, but I'm being me, doing me and Jesus. He's making a way. Wasn't about marrying Jesus or none of that kind of stuff. But it was just about living my best life because God saw fit for this to be where I was, and He was providing for me the best life that I could have. And I was taking advantage of all of that. And then you know what? In the right time, God brought the love of my life in my life. And that's how this book came to be. And we gotta have that conversation too.
Yes, we do.
Because again, catch the title. When love isn't enough, should I stay or go? That's a conversation to have. These check-ins, now that I have permanency in my life with someone I want to spend the rest of my life with, don't forget you. You got to do check-ins on you too. All
That's
right,
good. I
ending that
like that, Sheila.
conversation. But
I
don't we
like
got a
that.
lot more stuff to talk
I
about?
like that.
Yeah, so tune in, subscribe, find out more about what Sheila M is doing. The relationship piece is just one part. My desire, my call is that you'll thrive in every aspect of your life. I came from a place of darkness and where I felt I wasn't good enough and I couldn't measure up. I was having professional and personal success, but yet on the inside, I was just dying. Like something was wrong, and I love God. And then I gave my life to Christ, and I worked really, really hard. And through His grace, I was able to turn my life around, and am lovable now, am blessed and living my best life. And I meet people every week that are telling me they have some of those same challenges and don't know how to change that. And so come on over to Sheila M. We only wish the best and God's best for you. So let's wrap this thing up. Make sure you stay to the end so that you can hear about this week's download. All right. We are pre-recorded, so we don't have the opportunity to engage with you live, but we want to hear from you and what's going on in your lives. So we have a couple of questions for you. And the first one is, what's your biggest challenge when it comes to communicating with loved ones? Make sure that you share your experience in the comments. Your story might inspire somebody else. And we're in there checking for what you're saying, and we will respond. And the second question, Regina, help me out. What we got?
Do you struggle more with listening or expressing yourself? Which one? Don't forget, share your experiences in the comments. You never know how your story may impact someone's life. We are anxious to see your answer. Do you struggle more with listening or do you struggle more with expressing yourself?
As we recap our conversation today. Healthy communication isn't about never disagreeing. It's about understanding and supporting each other.
If we're going to have healthy relationship, we must learn how to communicate and how to do it in a healthy manner. We must be intentional. We must take time, learn new skills, as Sheila brought out about active listening skills, learn how to implement these things so we can connect and communicate effectively with our partners. Sheila has provided tips for you. Remember, use those I statements. Repeat what you think you're hearing your partner says. Create a no phone zone. Be mindful of your tone. And lastly, remember those scheduled check-ins.
So, don't forget, download this week's communication handout. Always get big props on them. Don't want to miss it. It's free and it's going to help you with your communication skills. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share so that we can spread the word and the YouTube algorithm will know to show us to more people. The ebook and digital workbook is available on SheilaMCoaching.com.
You don't want to miss the next episode. We will be diving into trust, how to rebuild it, and why it's essential.
Don't miss it.
Don't miss it.
So that's it for now. Wishing you a great, wonderful week.
Blessings. See you next time.